What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another week of Movie Mondays here on the Heroes for Hire podcast. My name is Sean Meehan, and I am all alone today. Conor is away at the minute, and so I think this is my first time solo hosting any episode of the Heroes for Hire podcast. So we're going to get through it together. We're all going to do our best. And what we did the last couple of days, we put out a call on Facebook, Instagram, all the socials, asking for questions for little old me. And so what we're going to do, I've got them all in the document here. We're going to run through them. I'm going to answer them, hopefully, and we're going to do our best to get out a decent little episode for everyone. Conor would give out to me, if I didn't say at the start of the episode, that if you don't mind, whatever podcast platform you're listening on, if you could leave a like and a review or a favourite or whatever your platform of choice does, that would be absolutely excellent and helps to spread the show around. We got heaps of questions, actually, so thank you very much to everyone who sent them in. I will try and get to all of them, but it depends, I suppose, how long I talk for, how much I ramble. I don't want to be doing a 2 hour of just me talking into everyone's ear. But there's some really good ones that have come in. So starting off, we have a question in here from Conor. Now, it's not from Conor, my co-host Conor. It's from Conor over on Instagram. And he says, what does the typical podcast production look like from recording to getting it up online? And I feel like this could be a peek behind the curtain in a bad way, because we've been doing the podcast for so long at this point that we really have it nailed down what we do, to the point that it looks like we don't do a lot. So Conor will put the show together. That's the main job that actually has to be done. Conor will put that together during the week, whether it's Movie Mondays or Weird News. For Hero or Zero, obviously we take it in turns. And what we do then is we record over Google Meet. We used to do it in person, but Google Meet is just so much handier because we can do it on the day rather than having to batch record them all. So we'll log on to Google Meet. We'll do the show, usually about an hour and a half of a call. And the thing about where we're probably a bit different than some other podcasts is that we very rarely do editing. We very rarely edit out bits of the conversation or cut things through or anything like that, simply because we came from the radio where everything was live and there can be no dead air. You just have to keep talking. If there's a mistake, you make a joke about it or you correct it or anything like that. So there's very little, once we bring it into the editing software, which I edit it in Adobe Audition, once we bring it in there, there's kind of very little that actually has to be done to it in terms of content. Now, what we do have to do is that we have to level it, because obviously we're in different rooms, so we have to make sure that we're at the same volume, and we have to make sure that we're not peaking. I often have to run a noise suppressor on it because my house is beside quite a busy road, so sometimes there's traffic noise or bird noise that you might hear in my side of the recording. So it's a lot of just tweaking the audio on each side to make sure it sounds the best. Slam those two together, output it then to an MP3, and we upload it to Podbean. That's our podcast platform of choice. It was 4 years ago, it was just the one that me and Conor both used, so that's why we started uploading to that. And then Podbean, what's nice about it is it just sends it out to every other podcast service, so your Spotify's, your iTunes, everything like that, and it auto shares to the website heroesforhire.ie as well. So that's kind of the bulk of it, honestly. Then there's social sharing and stuff during the week, just to do a bit of promotion on Instagram and things like that. Again, Conor tends to handle that kind of stuff because I'm not very good at social media. But that's kind of the extent of what we do. It sounds very simple. It does take time, but that's just because they are hour-long episodes at the end of the day. So that's your minimum of how long it's ever going to take. And it's only kind of going to go up from there. Conor has another question then. Are there any post-credit scenes that haven't been followed up on in movies that you would be interested in? for example, this is what I was going to say. In Spider-Man Homecoming, we see Mac Gargan, who is Scorpion, talking to Adrian Toomes in the post-credits scene, but we still haven't seen the Scorpion in the MCU. That's one of the main ones that still bugs me to this day, because Mac Gargan is such an interesting character, and just completely unused in the MCU at the minute. Canonically exists, but completely unused. And also, I think after Morbius, isn't Adrian Toomes gone from the MCU now? So we're down. There were two villains in that end credit scene. One we haven't seen, and one is in the Sonyverse now. So I don't know what the plan is with that. As far as any other ones, for the longest time, it was the Adam Warlock tease at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy 2. But obviously we're getting that now in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 with Will Poulter. So that one's kind of being resolved. And trying to think, is there anything else? It's not an end credits scene, but at the end, or kind of it's towards the final act of The Incredible Hulk. Samuel Stearns, the scientist, he gets Hulk blood in his brain and starts turning into the leader. And that's just kind of left hanging. It's addressed in a comic that he's in the raft, I think. Just sitting there, I suppose. But I would love to see Tim Blake Nelson come back as the leader in like a future Hulk story, if we ever get anything like that, like a World War Hulk or anything like that. That would be very, very cool. And that leads nicely on to Conor's final question, which is, do you have a favourite recurring bit / joke? And I think mine is that I love The Incredible Hulk. Like, it's not even a joke. I genuinely think that's a good film, and I enjoy it when I watch it. Conor doesn't believe me. He kind of came around on the Patreon review, but for the most part, I just like annoying him with that. Same with the way I like National Treasure and Real Steel and the first 3 Pirates of the Caribbean movies. I just like liking things that Conor is annoyed by, I think. So looking through some of the other questions then. Question here from Keza, which is, if you could make your own Irish superhero, what kind of powers would he have? Where in Ireland would he be from? And what would be his origin? See, this is tricky because I would make Black Tom Cassidy, who is an Irish superhero. He's from County Mayo in Ireland, and he has the power to control wood, to control timber, which is just, that's my jam. That's the coolest Irish superhero I think I could possibly imagine. Like there are, there's a whole lot of like warrior history and stuff in Ireland. So you could do like, there's like Finn McCool is like an Irish folk legend war hero kind of dude. So something like that, where it's like, God, like a Wolverine kind of thing, where it's like this ageless superhuman who has fought for years and years and years and years and just keeps going. That kind of thing would be very, very cool. There is a load of Irish gods in Marvel Comics already. They're the Tuatha De Danann is the group of them. And just it like all gods exist in Marvel Comics in some way or another. But they do actually exist, and they're not really used in stories, but they're basically akin to the Asgardians or the Eternals and things like that. They're always there. They pop up every now and again, and they generally cause trouble for everyone. So that kind of stuff I would love to see more of. In terms of creating my own, I do not think I can do better than Black Tom Cassidy, to be honest. Keza also wants to know, would love to see you do the worst possible casting for Fantastic Four. People that you think would suit the roles, but would be absolutely terrible picks for them. That's really interesting. See, when you say absolutely terrible picks, is it that they wouldn't suit the universe, like they'd be difficult to work with? Because that they would be maybe the right people, but not in the right movie. Like, because I think like Kate Mara would have been a really good Invisible Woman in a better movie. Same, of course, with Michael B. Jordan as Johnny Storm, but that's a given. Michael B. Jordan can do no wrong on this podcast, as we well know. For a bad Reed Richards, you could cast an actual bastard, like an actual terrible, horrible person. Cast Woody Allen as Mr. Fantastic. That I probably shouldn't. No, the Kevin Spacey. I think it's, that character is such a bastard anyway. The only way you can miscast him properly is to cast an actual bastard of an actor. With The Thing, then, I think The Thing has so much fan love behind him as a character that you would have to pick a boring choice, nearly. Like, I know we've joked about it, but John Cena should not be The Thing. I think he could embody, he would have the size, he would be able to do the action and things like that, but he wouldn't be the character of The Thing, in my opinion. And the next question then comes from Matthew over on Instagram. Matthew says, do you have any advice for other aspiring Irish podcasters? And Matthew's actually tagged the Lowlifes podcast. So go over and check that out if it's something you think you might be interested in. Another Irish creator out there. My advice, the only advice specifically about Irish is that, Ireland is so small. We have a population of 5 million or something like that. But everyone knows everyone. Everyone is connected. And so it's the same advice that I have had given to me and I have given to other people about art and music and film and all this kind of stuff. Just anything creative is just make noise. Just get it out there. Get the podcast out there. The fact that you do a podcast, tell everyone that you can about it. This is why we always say, tell one human being that we exist. Because if even one person that listens to this podcast tells one other person, that's job done. At the start, if you have one person listening to you and they tell one other person to listen, that's 100% increase on your listenership. So just make noise about that and keep going, because at the start, the first 3 or 4 episodes, you'll have so much energy and you'll be so excited to do it. And then you will not get a large listenership out of the gate. So you need to make sure that you enjoy the podcast you're doing to make sure that you keep doing it. I know for a fact, if I was to do it like this, where I'm just talking on my own to a microphone in my room, this podcast would not get past 6 episodes. But because I'm doing it with my friend Conor, who we would talk about this stuff anyway, and we enjoy talking about this stuff, and we enjoy talking to I enjoy talking to Conor. I don't know how he feels about me personally, but when it's something you genuinely enjoy doing, you will do it if no one listens. And then if people start listening, all the better. It takes that pressure off. Also, doing it with someone else means that, and it sounds bad, but you have a kind of responsibility to do it. I don't want to let Conor down of a Monday evening when we're due to record the podcast. I don't want to say to Conor, no, I'm not in the mood. That would not feel good to me. So yeah, just enjoy what you're doing, do it with people that you like, and just stick it out. Just keep going, keep making noise about it, and you'll get on great. I think I looked on the Instagram that you shared, Matthew, and it seems you're doing it with 2 of your friends as well. So that's great. That's class. That's the way to do it, in all honesty. So just stick at it and see where you go. Maybe don't do 3 shows a week. That can get a little bit hectic in terms of scheduling. Question then from Lorraine. I was wondering, what do you think is the best way to introduce the X-Men to the MCU? Ooh, and any casting ideas too. Oh God. Okay, casting wise, introduction first. So I think I don't want the X-Men pulled from another universe. I don't think. I want them to either have always been in the MCU and hidden by some means, or to have only been a recent emergence of mutations since say the snap. That dose of radiation went out across the world and awakened the X gene within people. There is a thing in the Ultimate comics, the Ultimate series of comics, which is another universe, but it's often pulled from for the films because they simplified a lot of stuff. And Wolverine is the first mutant. He, as part of the Weapon X program, he was the first one that had his mutant gene activated. After that, then it started popping up more and more, and other mutants were found. So I could see them doing something like that with... Actually, no, I can't spoil too much. But if you've watched The Thing, you know The Thing, is all I'm going to say on that one. But in terms of casting, there is... Jared Keeso would be my Wolverine. For anyone who's watched the Canadian show Letterkenny, Jared Keeso plays a shorter than average angry Canadian man, which I think would just be absolutely perfect for Wolverine. Failing that, Taron Egerton would be also... Or is it Egerton? Eggsy from Kingsman. He would be an excellent Wolverine as well. Or Daniel Radcliffe. Those are my three shouts. Giancarlo Esposito. Obviously, I think he's up for Professor X at the minute, which I think would be a great shout. Magneto's a tough one for me because I really like Fassbender as Magneto, but I also think he should probably still have been around at the time of the Holocaust, and then maybe been frozen or something for or traveled through time for a few years, and then come to the modern day and be a contemporary, like a similar age to Professor X. I think their dynamic works so much better like that. So that's a tough one for me. I actually don't think I have like a dream Magneto cast, because I think for as bad as some of those movies were, I think they nailed it with Fassbender and they nailed it with Ian McKellen. So I'm kind of nervous to see what'll happen on the third round on that one. And like there's so many X-Men to get through, like they're all muddling together in my head. So I think I might leave it there for casting news and things like that. But I think the snap awakening the X gene might be the way to go. And maybe it was dormant since, I don't know, from a while ago. And that's why you'd have some of the older crew. You know, you'd have your Professor X's and your Magnet O's and things like that. Also tagged onto that question from Lorraine is a totally selfish question. Not selfish at all, Lorraine. Any good Gambit runs to read would be highly appreciated. The only kind of Gambit run I've solidly read is there's a run called King of Thieves, and it's Gambit. He goes back to the Thieves Guild that he was a part of when he was young, and it's a story about he has to choose between, I think it's the Thieves Guild, which is like his family. He has the Avengers and the X-Men, and he's kind of deciding where a lot of his loyalties lie and things like that. So really interesting, really good characterization of Gambit in that, I think. Next question then from Shaun Jamieson, patron of the show, Shaun Jamieson. Shaun wants to know, when's Catwoman being done on the Patreon? As soon as the hat drops it out, man, honestly. That movie is very strange because I think I've seen that movie maybe half a dozen times, and most of them were when I was like 14. So I remember it, but I was a child at the time. I did not understand how a movie could be terribly, terribly bad. So I'd be interested to go back and actually talk about it. That would be a good one for Halloween, actually, would be Catwoman. So we'll see if I can rig the hat or something like that. From rfergs19 on Instagram then, if El Muerto is getting their own film, how long until Frogman gets one? So for those of you that might not know, that might have missed it, El Muerto is getting a film in the Sony Pictures universe of Marvel characters, or Spumke, as we like to call it. And El Muerto has appeared in a grand total of 2 Spider-Man comics. So it's a very strange choice. Frogman is a man who has a suit that lets him jump quite a bit. And this is interesting because in the trailer for She-Hulk, we see a lad who looks awfully like Frogman. This was posted in the Detective Devilment group on Facebook not too long ago. And I did a report on Hero Zero without knowing that Frogman was going to be a major player, apparently, in the MCU. So I would love to see him crop up and just like be a ground level like prick of a villain that Daredevil has to stop every so often, or that Spider-Man now has to deal with now that he's a street level hero as well. So I think we'll see Frogman in the coming weeks is what I would imagine there. From Adam Lawrence Hart, good friend of the show, Adam Hart, appeared and did a great report on Kid Omega on Hero Zero not too long ago. Adam says, who has the highest Marvel power level of the hosts? Now that's interesting because I think given the 1 to 7 rating system and how it's spread, I think we're both good in very different areas. I have a feeling Conor might have me on speed just because he is a sportsman and I am not. But I'd like to take durability. I'd like to be more durable, if anything. Take a few knocks, you know. Although Conor has done several shows concussed, but I've done several shows hungover. So, in a way, it's kind of the same. From TJ, then, again over on Instagram, question about Assassin's Creed, you say. What are my thoughts on the future of Assassin's Creed, and will it ever go back to what the fans love from the original games? So, Assassin's Creed, for those that don't know, used to be this, like, historical action adventure game. It was really, really cool. And it was open world, but fairly structured, I would say. Then they changed it into more like a Witcher style RPG, which upset a lot of people. A lot of the fans don't like it. I don't particularly like it because those games, some of them are great, like The Witcher and Red Dead and stuff like that. But some of them are just too big for me. And I can't fathom what's going on, and I'm kind of directionless in them. I think eventually we'll get back to the smaller games, simply because I think there's probably less development on them. I think there'll be a market for those. I don't think the RPG stuff is going fully away anytime soon, because that's how you sell microtransactions, and that's how you get all the extra little money from people after they bought a game for 70 quid. Also, am I looking forward to Gotham Knights? I am. Gotham Knights looks really, really, really cool. I started playing Arkham Knight recently, and it's gotten me back into like a Batman Gotham universe world that be happy to jump back into. So just scrolling through the document again. Mr. JJ Music on Instagram. Which superhero character would you least like to be? And why? God, like there's a lot of being a superhero involves being miserable and like all of your friends and loved ones being in danger all the time. I love Spider-Man, but I would not want to be Spider-Man at all, because that man's life is just tragedy after tragedy after tragedy, and he's never allowed to be happy, and I don't know how he keeps going, quite frankly. Like Batman as well, I wouldn't like to be, like, my parents are nice, so let's keep them around as long as possible. The Sentry again, like the idea that, yeah, you can be Superman, but there's also like an anti-Superman that comes out anytime you're Superman. I don't need that in my life. And I wouldn't want to be the Hulk, because, I mean, you'd go through a load of money in pants. And also, again, it's that thing of you can never really form attachments to anything or anyone, because the second you lose your cool, you really have to start hitchhiking down the road and find a new house, basically. So yeah, that's I think my answer on that one. And what else do we have going on here, folks? Question from Shaun over, not me, I'm afraid. A question from Shaun over on Instagram, couple of them here. What hero would you like to see become a villain and why? So this is actually really cool, because for the longest time, there's a character called Ben Reilly in Spider-Man comics. He was a clone of Peter Parker, part of the famous clone saga. He is the Scarlet Spider, and he's been going around operating as a superhero under that name for a while. And I wanted him to turn bad for ages. I thought that would be really cool. And he recently has. He's a character called Chasm now, and it's the most metal 90s Spider-Man villain you've ever seen. He's all green and purple Spider-Man covered in like smoke. It's very, very cool. I also like anytime there's someone turns to villainy, but not the whole way. Like, there was a time where, like, Cyclops was basically a rogue agent, operating, like, he had his own school and stuff set up, and he was technically an enemy of the X-Men, but he had just aligned more with Magneto at that time, so that's why he did what he did. Like, characters that turn villain for a reason, I think, are really interesting. And kind of following on from that then is, Shaun asks, what villain do you empathise and or agree with the most, and why? See, there's a lot of villains that, like, maybe I don't agree, but they're sympathetic. Like, getting away from Marvel for a minute, like people like Mr. Freeze, like, you can kind of understand the desperation that drove that man to do what he did. Not excusing anything, but you can see the logic, kind of. I suppose, like, okay, I need to specify, this is just the MCU version, not the comic version, because the comic version is kind of a Nazi, but the MCU version of Baron Zemo, and maybe it's just because I love Daniel Bruhl so much, but the characterization of Baron Zemo in Falcon and the Winter Soldier might be the best thing about Falcon and the Winter Soldier, because Zemo's whole thing in that series is no super soldiers. Like, the idea of super soldiers cannot be separated from supremacy. And, like, it's a meme, but he's out of line, but he's right, you know? Like, the idea that someone could be a superhero basically means that people can be better than others based on genes. That's what Zemo's whole argument is. And that becoming superhero will corrupt anyone because of the power. And again, he's out of line, but he's right. Like, there's a lot of evidence to back up his claims. I think my favourite scene in that series is where, like, all the vials of serum spill over the ground, like they're just rattling around there. Zemo looks at them, and you think maybe for half a second he's going to take it, just so he can stand, like, he can fight and he can continue his mission with superpowers. But he just starts stamping on them, and he breaks it, and he destroys the serum, or so he thinks. But his intention is to destroy the serum. He doesn't believe it should exist at all, and it's just, he's so stuck to his guns in that minute that I'm like, look, I might not agree with his methods 100%. But I fucking respect where he's coming from with that. There's also that argument of like, oh, the serum didn't make Steve Rogers evil. And Zemo's just like, yeah, fair. But there's never been another Steve Rogers, has there? Just really love Daniel Bruhl, I think. Watch The Alienist on Netflix. It's like a Daniel Bruhl 1890s detective story. It's absolutely brilliant. And again from Shaun then, the old horse and duck flipped. Okay. Would you rather fight one tiny Ant-Man-sized Thanos or 100 Thanos-sized Ant-Mans? Also, tiny Thanos has at most the Power Stone, but no reality or time-bending weirdness. Okay, so what you're asking me, would I rather fight an ant who can punch like Jesus, or would I rather fight 100 grown men who have done the Marvel workout? I think I would take the Ant-Man size Thanos. So he doesn't have the growth and shrinky powers. He's just that small anyway. So, I think I would take the tiny Thanos because I could just, I'd surround myself with fly traps, I think. And then he wouldn't be able to punch out of those because every time he punches, he's going to get stuck again. Suddenly he's wrapped up in fly traps. I throw them into the sea, catch a nice fish for myself. I think, so I'm going to do one tiny Ant-Man sized Thanos. Please, if you could arrange that, I'll fight him any time of the day or night. Question from Luke then over on Instagram. Do you think the Mandalorian verse would is that what we're calling Star Wars now? The Mandalorian verse? Do you think the Mandalorian verse should spend too much time trying to fill plot holes of the sequel trilogy? So, okay, I get what you're saying there. So, using the TV series to patch up discrepancies, like how did Maz Kanata get Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber and stuff like that. I don't think they should. I think I'm all for just explain that stuff in a comic and then let the Star Wars YouTubers explain it to the masses is what I would do with that kind of plot hole. I think let the Mandalorian kind of stand on its own. They should also have let Book of Boba Fett stand on its own and not just turn it into Mandalorian Season 3 at the end. But I digress. I think that sequel trilogy there's so many problems with that are not plot holes that I don't think just throwing in a few lines of dialogue in The Mandalorian will fix that. I don't think it's going to improve that trilogy, so I don't think you should bother putting the time into trying it. Luke also asks, any thoughts on House of the Dragon? Feels like a clean slate. Enjoyed the first episode. I haven't watched the first episode yet, actually. I was big into Game of Thrones. I read the books, everything. And and things can be bad. And I was like, oh, okay, that was shit. I get it. But this was one of the first times I've been properly disappointed by a TV series. That I had sunk a lot of time in. I had gotten a lot of people, I had batted for that series. I was like, no, it's great. You should watch it. You should absolutely start watching it. And then it just kind of fizzled out and left no lasting impact. And also, I know that's the bare bones of how the books are going to end. So I'm not really invested or interested in those anymore, one will ever come out again. So House of the Dragon, I'll probably watch it, right? But I know what happens. Ultimately, at the end of things, I know what happens. I know who sits on the throne ultimately. And I'm just like, I would have liked to see House of the Dragon first before I saw how Game of Thrones ended. I know that's impossible, but that's what I would have wanted, I think, because it's just, I can't deal with the fact that no matter what else happens in this story, no matter what setup, what stakes there are, it ends how it ends. And that's not changing at all. Luke also asks, have you seen Nope? Did you enjoy Nope? I have not seen Nope. I'm a big scaredy cat when it comes to horror films. I like them, but it's kind of Evil Dead 2 is probably my limit, where it's kind of campy horror and things like that. So I'll give it a try. But maybe with the lights on and during the daytime. What else do we have going on here then? Question then from Russ. So which characters are going to appear in the rest of the cinema-defining Morbius trilogy? Jesus, hopefully none. Hopefully that series just dies a death. Sorry, that's a bit too negative for a movie Mondays, isn't it? The Morbius, who could you have realistically? Because they're trying to set up a Sinister Six. So they have, Vulture and Morbius, kind of Venom at the minute. I wouldn't mind, if they're going to do it, give me Shocker. I think that would be funny to see Sony butcher that as well. Craven the Hunter they're doing as well, which they're going to butcher. That sounds like a terrible idea. The Spot, we covered it on Hero Zero. Spider-Man villain The Spot, may as well throw him into the mix. And what would be a good third one? I was going to say Black Cat, but I don't want Sony to do Black Cat because Black Cat's great. So no, not that. Give me Rhino. Let them do Rhino because it can't be worse than Paul Giamatti in a big metal rhino costume. He says this. It can absolutely be worse, and most likely will be worse than that. But that'll be my 3. Russ also asks, why in Sean's humble opinion is Marvel infinitely better than DC? Look, I grew up on Marvel. That's why I prefer those stories. I've always said that. I've had friends who are DC fans. Past tense had. But they're different kinds of stories. Like, there are great DC stories that I love. There are Marvel stories that I hate, you know? The reason I like Marvel more is that I think, especially the time I got into them and things like that, the universe was just a bit more connected to me at that point. A lot of the DC stories I read was, Superman's doing this thing in Metropolis, and then it's meanwhile in Gotham City, and the things have nothing to do with each other. But a lot of the Marvel comics I was reading, like Spider-Man would go ask the Fantastic Four a question, and Johnny Storm wouldn't be there, and there'd be a little bubble being like, oh, if you want to know what happens to Johnny, read this other comic. And in that other comic, Johnny would go on an adventure with Doctor Strange. There was just a lot going on. Maybe there is more of that in DC than I think, but a lot of my experience with DC was trade paperbacks, full collections and editions of comics. The first comic I ever read was Death in the Family, in fact. So I think it was just the way I consumed them at a young age. Marvel just suited my ADHD brain a little bit more. Whereas DC felt like the older brother, the serious, no, these are the stories. These are the ones that really mean something. And I was just in them for a bit of fun. So I think that's where my Marvel DC divide comes down. And then, another question, could Florida Man hold their own in the MCU? Well, I have news for you, Russ, in that there is a Florida Man in the MCU. He's called Captain Citrus. He's appeared in promotional images and comics for, I think, the Georgia Tourism Board or something like that. Why would it be Georgia? The Florida Tourism Board. And he's an orange juice based superhero, I'm pretty sure. I'm working on a report about him. There's not very much content, is all I'm gonna say. So I don't know if it will ever come to light, but maybe I'll throw it up on the Patreon or something at some point, and we can all talk about Captain Citrus together. Even though he already is in the MCU, he could absolutely not hold his own. He'd be absolutely worthless in most fights, I want to say. Question then from Sinead. Why is Cinderella Story the best movie experience of all time? What she's done there, Sinead, Sinead, has spelled Cinderella Story, Sinderella. It's a very fun play on words. I've not seen Cinderella Story for years. I've seen it maybe once before, but I remember it being good. I remember it being a good shout of a film. So, yeah, I think, why is it the best experience of all time? Because it's a great film. And one of them has to be the best, so why not Cinderella Story, Sinderella? A question then from Ed, a couple of questions from Ed, in fact. What is your most anticipated movie in the next 12 months? What's coming out in the next 12 months? Say movies 2023. Why not? Because I'm looking forward to Black Panther, but that's in a month and a half. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. That's a big one. The Spot is showing up in that, actually. He's going to be one of the villains in that. Guardians 3, that's another one. Ant-Man Quantumania. That's going to be really, really good, I hope. Getting away. Oh, Jesus, The Flash. Oh, no, lads. Oh, Jesus. Is Blade coming out in 2023? This is a packed year, lads. John Wick 4, that's going to be really good. Dune Part 2, whenever that comes out. I'm really excited for Dune. Dune. I don't mean to pronounce it that way. Oppenheimer looks great. Like hot take, being like, because I think Oppenheimer might be good, you know. The Barbie movie, that one I'm just fascinated by as to what's actually going on with it. And I think like there's loads of stuff coming out that I'm pretty hyped for. That Dungeons and Dragons movie looks fun. There's a movie about that cocaine bear, apparently. My God, what's happening here? No, I think I think 2023 is going to be a good year. Lot of comic book stuff. Lot of comic book stuff coming out. So we'll see what the, I suppose, level of quality and consistency is going to be. So yeah, like really looking forward to a lot of stuff coming out in the next year. We'll be talking about it a lot on various Movie Mondays episodes, I'm sure. Also from Ed Den, Dune 2 is coming up soon. Where do you think the story will wind up? Will it cover Messiah, Dune Messiah, the second Dune book? Or is Timothée Chalamet too young yet? This could be spoilers. I'll try and dance around them. I think Dune 2 is just going to cover the second half of Dune. Second half of the first Dune book, first Dune story, ending where that book leaves off. And then the next film, I do think we'll get a Dune Messiah and then a Children of Dune. Now, with regards to Timothée Chalamet's age, I actually think he's fine. Like, he's 26 right now? So Paul Atreides, the main character of Dune in the first book, is 15 or 16, I think. And then in Dune Messiah, I believe that's set 15 years after that first book. So he would be 30. So I think like Chalamet would be perfectly in line to play that. They can make him look a bit more tired and less like he, I don't know, drinks vampire blood to survive. I like Timothée Chalamet. He seems like a lovely man. And then Children of Dune, I believe, well, that's about the kids anyway. So I don't think like you can do I think they can take a lot of creative license, with what goes on after the fact. But I do think Dune 2 is just going to be the second half. Which, that was my favourite bit. No, not my favourite bit, but it was one of the things I really loved about Dune Part 1, is that when you sit down in the cinema, they put up the title card for Dune, and then it just fades Part 1 in, as if to say, yeah, studios, we're definitely going to do a Part 2. This movie's phenomenal. Next question then. Recent Marvel movies have been marginally above grand. Not bad, but a little rudderless. Thoughts? Yeah. It's tough, man. Like, it's tough to talk about. As someone who, like, has gone to bat for these movies for a very long time, it's disheartening a little bit that it seems like there isn't a whole lot of care or attention being put into the things that made the earlier movies so good. It's I think there's and this is not new ground I'm treading by any means, but I think there is too much going on that there's no possible way that all of these various writers, directors, editors, concept artists, producers, costume designers, there's no way everyone can talk to each other. There's no way Kevin Feige can listen to everyone all at once either. So I think some things are let slip by the wayside. Like Thor was a real, like, breaking point. Not breaking point, but, like, sore point for me. Because I loved Ragnarok. Ragnarok was so good. And then Thor just felt, it was very oddly put together. And very, it felt like 3 different films smashed together. I said all of this in the review. But I really did not enjoy that film. On thinking about it, I really, like, going back now and thinking about it, I don't think I enjoyed Thor: Love and Thunder, hardly at all. I think rudderless is probably the word. I think they don't know. I think they weren't told where things were ending up, so they couldn't plan for anything. They couldn't seed ideas going forward. And so now that at least we have, because we were told, we knew Kang would be the bad guy, but we didn't know like in what capacity or anything like that. Now we know we're leading to Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars. We can start planting things for that. We got a bit of that in Doctor Strange with incursions being mentioned and things like that. So maybe they're back on track. I have this theory that like all of these movies that have recently come out, they were all kind of pandemic related. Not to blame that on anything, but I feel like, and also Marvel should treat their VFX artists and the VFX companies I work with should treat them about 1 million times better than they currently do, and give them time and give them the necessary budget. You have goddamn Disney money, so there is no excuse for overworking and underpaying staff at all. And so I think going back to the pandemic thing is that I think a lot of production problems and production problems that may have come from a higher level maybe were exacerbated by the pandemic, and we're just getting to the end of that now. And maybe now we'll start to see an improvement, basically, is a very blunt way of putting it. We will complain about, or we will make note of issues with visual effects and CGI and things like that. That's not a reflection on the skill of those artists or anything like that. That is a reflection on the company that doesn't know how to value the creators that make their films, basically. So yeah, that's a very stream of consciousness way of talking about it. And then Ed also follows up with, why does Conor hate the Joaquin Phoenix Joker so much? Really? Did Todd Phillips steal from Conor or personally assault him in some way? He did, in fact. That's why Conor's missing today. Todd has taken him hostage, and I refuse to pay any ransom, quite frankly. No, this is more of a Conor question to answer. From talking to him, and I get where he's coming from, I think some of it would be that the Joker should not have an origin. He's a much more compelling character when he is just a force of nature and you don't know where he comes from. That's my interpretation of what Conor has told me. I am not speaking for him by any means. He just happens to not be here at the minute. Also from Ed then, when is the Heroes for Hire Patreon session happening? I've heard a lot about Shaun being a great pint man of today, a time where pint men are perilously few and far between. If we ever do like a convention or something, I'm sure we'll have drinks with everyone, or I will at least. People I should clarify. I don't drink that much. It's a funny joke. It's a funny little joke that we're all in on. Also, have you ever tried to enter or have any interest in doing a podcast festival or the likes? We've never really tried, but this podcast started like 2018. We were kind of growing then for a year and a half. Then we started doing pretty good, and then COVID hit. So everything kind of took a backseat, took a downturn. Basically, couldn't do anything for 2 years anyway. So it just hasn't been on our radar. It hasn't been something we've really talked a huge amount about. Might look into it in the future. But I don't want to kind of commit to anything just yet. And one more question then from Ed. You mentioned during the Maker episode, that was Hero Zero just last Friday, mentioned during the Maker episode that you're thinking of covering Secret Wars. Do you think you'll continue this trend? Will you ever cover something like Final Crisis or the likes? I can only speak for myself. I would love to summarize comic stories, like, because we kind of it's very strange, and it's something I've realized that happens with Hero Zero, is that we would often experience the same story multiple times through separate characters, that they'll just crop up. Like, I've talked about Secret Wars so much. But I've never, in various comic character reports, but I've never actually sat down and been like, here, start to finish what Secret Wars is about. A lot of them wouldn't take that long. Like, cutting out excess and stuff, you could do it in half an hour, 45 minutes. So I mentioned it to kind of get it on record. I'm just trying to figure out a way to make it work with the format, basically. Because it is, especially like in an audio medium, it is very hard to listen to a comic book story, which oftentimes there's a lot of visuals that help to carry the story along. So I just want to make sure like it's snappy and succinct, but also gives people the information that's needed. And the next question comes from good friend of the show, Waffles, who sent us in. Waffles actually sent in an audio question. So I'm going to play it from me. I'm going to remember. I'm definitely going to remember to edit it in so that all of you can hear it as well. And there is a promo as well in this. So I'll be back and we'll just play this. I'll be back and then we'll answer the question and we can all go home to our families. Okay.
Kia ora, it's Waffles here from Aotearoa, New Zealand. Heard you were A-ing some cues, so I thought I would give you a cue to A. Now, you might have heard through the grapevine that I was doing this 24-hour charity live stream on the 27th of August starting at 12 p.m. New Zealand Standard Time. We'll be raising money for charity. Now, D&D, a big hobby of mine, absolutely love it. What are some hobbies that you enjoy doing when you're not doing the podcast? Genuinely interested to know. Keep up the good work and congratulations on the 4-year anniversary of the show, which is coming up. Genuinely proud of you guys. It's absolutely amazing. Love you. Bye.
Kia ora, I'm Penny D, host of the 2022 Yes and Charity Stream.
Yes, and I'm Jules from NZ, and I'm also the host of 2022 Yes and Charity Stream.
Yes, and last year, dozens of Kiwi creators played Dungeons & Dragons for 24 hours to raise over $6,000 for charity.
Yes, and this year, we're hoping to do it all over again, only bigger. On the 27th and 28th of August, we're going to be streaming live on Twitch. Go to twitch.tv/YesAndCharityStream.
Yes, and we'll be aiming to raise $10,000 for the Cancer Society by playing 24 hours of the wildest, most chaotic D&D we can.
Yes, and you as the audience can donate to directly affect the game, live as it's happening.
Yes, and we have some pretty sweet prizes to give away this year from some very cool sponsors.
Yes, and we'll see you there to play Kiwi D&D for a great cause.
Yes, and Charity Stream. That's the name. Yes, and Charity Stream. Okay, you win.
Well, thank you very much for that, Waffles. Love you too, man. Hobby, like I collect hobbies. Basically, I just keep amassing things that I like doing. Like I've always been very artistic, I would say. And so I do like drawing and watercolor painting, acrylic painting, things like that. I also do a lot of Warhammer as well, and like miniature painting, which ties into the D&D thing, which is another hobby. But yeah, I paint little like Warhammer figures, I build armies. Just getting into playing the game, the actual like war game now a little bit, and it's really, really fun. And it's a really cool universe. It's really cool to just see the things like the stories and the characters, and then you get to build and paint and play with them. It's just a really engaging way of having a hobby, I think. So that's one. 3D printing, that's another one I'm quite into. And a bit of music as well. I do play the guitar, little bit more than Wonderwall, I would say. But like heaps of these things, and I pick them up, and then it's like a skill I teach myself, and I get pretty good at it. Then I'll stop for a while, and then I'll pick it back up when it interests me again. So that's that. I suppose that's just a list of things that I like. People do check out the Waffles charity live stream that's going on as well. We will throw a link to that in the description too. That sounds like a real fun time. I'll be tuning in for as long as I am able to. But I think, what time are we at? we're at about 50 minutes or so there. So I think we might call it there. I got to as many questions as I could. If I missed anyone or I forgot a question, I am really genuinely sorry. But we will put them all into, we have a kind of a backup folder of additional questions and things like that we bust out at times, like, Christmas and stuff, where we do episodes that are a little bit different than the standard news shows. But God, it's tough to outro a show when you're on your own. It's very difficult to segue into it. I hope you enjoyed this. I had fun. I enjoyed listening to all the questions. It was like a Dragon Ball Z kind of thing. You all lended me your energy to get me through this difficult time. So thank you all for that. Conor, I don't think we'll be having shows for the rest of the week, unfortunately, just because Conor is not around and my own schedule is a little hectic at the minute. But we will be back as soon as we can with your regularly scheduled programming. And what do I do? Hang on. I think that's about it, Conor. I think that's right. Do you want to take us out? I will. Thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode of Movie Mondays. We will be back soon. And if you want to support the show, you can join us over on Patreon, patreon.com/Heroes for Hire podcast. Link to that in the description. And shout outs, of course, go to Róisín Chunky Lobes Palmer, Joe Burney, Ryan Technically Fine Evanson. Watch the Yes and 24-hour DnD Charity live stream starting 12 p.m, 27th of August, New Zealand Standard Time. Waffles will be DMing. David Clarke, Shaun Chuck in the wash and it'll be grand Jamieson, Dominic, Anna Hjelmroos, Lil Dicky going on record that Titania does not represent the entirety of Colorado McGrew, Danny McLaughlin, The Fabulous Frogman, Sam, Michelle Browne, Michaela Doughty, Sackman41 and Buster. Thank you all for the continued support. Really, really, really appreciate you. We will be talking about She-Hulk on the Patreon in the coming weeks, trying to figure out a way to divide the episodes, because I think it's a bit longer than the usual Marvel fare. Other ways to support the show, you can go to the merch store, link below, heroesforhire.ie/shop. Twitter is at heroesforhirepod, the 4 is the number 4. Facebook is Detective Divilment's discussion group. Instagram is Heroes for Hire podcast. And the best way to ever help out the show is to tell one human being that we exist. Say it with me now, just the one. And I think that's about it, everyone. So thank you all very much for listening, and we will see you next time.